Hello, I am Stephanie Joy, the attorney at All Things Social Security and Joy Disability Law. Your video is about to start. I just wanted to remind you that if you click the join button below, you can learn more about the memberships offered at a very affordable price that can give you a little more direct attorney answers to your questions. Have a great day and enjoy the video. Good afternoon. How is everybody? Hope you're all doing well. Have an interesting report out, and it concerns discovery, if you will, and reporting to the public of the SSA overpaying both SSI beneficiaries and OASDI, which would be the old age survivor disability, the Social Security beneficiaries, which is separate from SSI, as most of you probably already know by now, if you listen up, due to marriage reporting, non-reporting, failure to process a report, etc. It's millions of dollars in improper payments. So these are payments that people should not have gotten. They're overpayments, not underpayments. Okay, so let's get into it. They put out an entire report, and I will put a button up that will take you directly to this article if you want to read it. The particular report estimates that the SSA improperly paid over 16,000 SSI recipients and Social Security recipients approximately $240.9 million in preventable overpayments when there was a name change due to a change in marital status because SSA failed to update its payments records. So, we've had a lot of talk lately about overpayments. And the harm they do to the recipient, assuming it's not fraud, which most of the time it's not, right? When they have an overpayment accusation, which is often turns out to be true, but how do you pay such huge monies that you did not know were overpayments and use them for your sustenance or anything else? So, and we've had other news events on that in the month of April 2024 about things the SSA was doing to help rectify the severity of the impact when there is an actual overpayment, and how they deal with it in a different way to not be so damaging to the people that have had overpayments. Okay. So they note that when a person changes their name, the SSA systems don't automatically determine whether those people were receiving benefits. Right there, that seems like a no-brainer. It should. It doesn't seem like that coding would be difficult. So I'm not sure why that's not automatic, at least to determine if they are receiving benefits. So the SSA does not know about a marriage until an individual reports it. Okay. And later on, they go on to say, and I will just add in here, state vital statistics offices that accumulate marriage records closer in real time. There's a lot of fragmentation, and they don't necessarily report to the SSA. That's a difficult concept. Fragmentation occurs in other areas. Dangerous criminal over here getting convicted in Jersey may not be known to be such if looked up in Idaho, for instance. And I'm just pulling these names out of the hat. And it is probably how criminals have become teachers in other states. After losing their teaching job, in one state because of really bad activity, and then they just slither off to another state, show their degree, there is no excuse, I think, given technology today. It's crazy. Anyway, so this happens obviously more than just here, but here it's costing us, all of us, right? So once the SSA learns that an SSI recipient or a Social Security recipient, beneficiaries of the marriage, the employees have to take manual actions to update the payment records. And because of that, oftentimes it didn't happen, which led to the overpayments. And that makes sense to me. If you're going to rely on SSA staffers to manually do many things, there's going to be a lot of human error. We're human. There's errors, right? And to compound that is when they're understaffed. You know, there's so many ways that those kind of things impact, and this is probably just one of them. Okay, then a power that be, a power that is up in the SSA says, and I don't know this person personally. Marriage is a commitment between two individuals. SSA should be equally committed when someone walks into an office with a marriage certificate to correctly update the individual's record in order to ensure there's not a future overpayment. That's a little glib, don't you think? I mean, I agree with the sentiment, but if you want to make a joke out of it, yeah, marriage is a commitment. People get divorced all the time. And then don't live up to their commitments. So what do you say about that? But I do agree the SSA, of course, should be rectifying this. I mean, it's costing the system, which means it's costing all of us. It's hurting SSI recipients and Social Security taxpayers. So, okay. Then they go on to say that the SSA paid almost 19 million in overpayments because the beneficiary failed to report a change in marital status and did not change their name right away. On average, they say the SSA overpaid SSI recipients and Social Security beneficiaries on average over $13,000 over more than 30 months since the person reported the change. The date of the name change. I shouldn't say the person reported once they finally determined it. Now, I notice they're not breaking out SSI recipients from Social Security recipients. It's interesting because marriage absolutely affects SSI recipients. You know, if the new spouse is a worker, right, or has assets, it is not necessarily going to affect Social Security beneficiaries. However, marriages never hurt Social Security beneficiaries generally, as they would in many cases for an SSI recipient. In fact, if they don't make changes when a Social Security recipient gets married, they don't mention this here, but they could be underpaying the Social Security person. Because if the Social Security person is on a particular work history of their own, and they get married, and they could have a larger benefit under the new eligibility that they have or will soon gain by being married, then that could be an underpayment. Of course, a single person receiving survivor benefits from Social Security from a deceased spouse who then gets remarried, and if that's not reported, they could very well be overpaid all of those survivor benefits since the time of their marriage. That's something that people just have to get a grip on. And of course, always report your marriages, regardless of the program you're in. But SSA certainly has to then do something with those reports. We talk about this with other reportings beneficiaries are supposed to make, including I'm working this, I'm working that. And they're told sometimes by staffers, oh, don't even report it. We'll see it come tax time. Well, by then you could be deep weeds into an overpayment. So I don't think any of that's helpful. They do go on to say, and we were talking about fragmentation before, the SSA explored the feasibility of using electronic marriage data to determine when individuals did not report marriage as required. However, not all states and jurisdictions have a central repository of electronic marriage data and do not require or collect the marriage applicant's Social Security number. I know we want less poking into our personal lives by the federal government. For sure I do. But when you're getting a federal benefit, you've kind of waived that little bit of privacy, perhaps. You know, I mean, it's just what it is. When I make a health insurance claim, I have to prove I actually went to the doctor, don't I? Ooh, privacy. Well, I mean, some people say I shouldn't have to prove it. Well, of course you do if you want the coverage. I mean, it goes always, you know. Anyway, I thought that was terrible. All those millions of dollars that I don't know how much they actually get back, guys. I'm sure they get back some. And now with that new 10% default that's less painful, they'll continue to get some. But, you know, this kind of waste and abuse, I'll just call it waste. I don't think anyone meant to abuse here. This was just complete incompetence. Um, it costs all of us, and it's probably part of the reason, just a little part, but part of the reason why we're always concerned about the failure of the Social Security funds. I mean, the lack of a strong labor workforce is probably the biggest, most significant single factor of how strong our Social Security benefits will be, and SSI. But SSI is kind of in a different realm. It really depends on workers working and paying their taxes. So when we weaken our labor force and encourage people not to work, particularly young people, we're just sticking a fork in it. So if you go and look back to when the fund was really, really strong, like extended out, like the SSD fund in particular was extended out to like 2065 for the first time ever. This was only a few short years ago. I want to say it was like 19 or 20. And then of course it went. Now COVID didn't help that, but it should have bounced back, and it hasn't. But our labor force is in shambles. Wages are low, part-time jobs versus full-time jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And mama's basement looks good to some people. All right, enough of that. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.